Boris Nadezhdin, Putin's would-be opponent vows to end Ukraine war.
Here's a summary of the article.
A would-be challenger to Russian President Vladimir Putin has said he would end the war in Ukraine on day one of his presidency. Boris Nadezhdin told the BBC he was unlikely to win the 17th of March elections, but Mr. Putin would not last 6 more years. He offered a vision of a Russia without the incumbent, where conflicts would end and relations were restored. Putin has made a lot of mistakes, not just with the special military operation, Mr. Nadezhdin says. Mr. Putin has headed Russia since the beginning of the millennium, his rule becoming increasingly authoritarian. He practically destroyed the key institutions of the modern state of Russia. My job will be to restore these institutions, said Mr. Nadezhdin. I am absolutely sure that Putin will not rule Russia 6 years more, because more and more people understand he is dragging Russia along the track of militarism, authoritarianism, isolation, Mr. Nadezhdin says.
This post received a score of 4,100, with an upvote ratio of 96%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Unofficial sources say anti-war candidates will be barred. That's Putin's ticket out if Nadezhdin's campaign gets strength. Or an unfortunate accident occurs. Still, gotta admire a guy who knows he probably won't win, but publicly opposes Putin anyway.
Could the trick be that you let an anti-war candidate run, Putin gets his usual 101% votes and he can point to that and say, see? My people want this war.
Our government prefers to pretend that war does not exist, literally so much as a whisper about it gets cancelled, so I'm not sure if Putin trying to use this guy that way. Much more likely that Kremlin is just little slow to delete poor fella, or that officials allow him to exist because they want to left the door open for overthrowing Putin, since this whole situation kinda unbeneficial for them.
Honestly, if I were Putin, I'd make a deal with someone. Look man, we want you to run against Putin in the elections. You'll be allowed to lightly criticize him, and you'll lose. Then after the election, you congratulate him, and fall back into line, yes?
This is an old trick and it is used when deemed so. If politicians in my country use this trick, Putin and his team are masters on the subject.
Oh, I'm sure. And I'm sure they even take it a step farther, see? We were right to trust Putin. After all that he said about him, and Putin let him be. He good man, Putin. Doesn't kill or even jail him after all those horrible lies he said about him. Putin won and gave him one dirty look, he fell back in line. No need to crush man entirely. Like that isn't an obvious route.
From what we know, Nadezhdin, who has been involved in politics in Russia since 1999 and was well known by the Kremlin, was viewed by the Kremlin as a loyal candidate who can push mind liberal rhetoric, let people vent off some steam and give some legitimacy to the elections. Look, we even have liberal candidates, people are free to choose whoever they want. What nobody expected was how popular he would get once the opposition leaders started to ask their followers to gather signatures for him, and people started queuing for hours leave their signatures for him. It's essentially the only way left at Russia to have a legitimate anti-war protest, and people are showing up for it in massive numbers. Now it's a big problem for the Kremlin, which has to decide whether to let him run or pull the plug and the signature verification stage and dissatisfy the people even more. It's a bit crazy how pushing to stop a war is seen as being a radical in the country.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.